Imagine the loneliest journey in human history. No map, no compass, no knowledge of what lies ahead, because no human being has ever been there before. Not a single footprint on the ground in front of you. Not a single story passed down from an elder about what to expect. Just you, your family, your tools, and a continent. 2 continents actually, stretching away into the unknown for 15,000 miles, all the way to the bottom of the world. This journey happened. It was real, and the people who made it were not explorers in any modern sense. They were not seeking fame or trade routes or new lands to claim. They were following animals across a landscape that was slowly changing beneath their feet, moving because movement was survival, stopping when survival allowed it, and in the process accomplishing something that no human beings before or since have matched. They populated an entire hemisphere, from the Arctic tundra to the tip of South America, in what is, in geological terms, the blink of an eye. We know their descendants. We call them Native Americans, or First Nations, or indigenous peoples. But before all those names, before the nations, the languages, the civilizations, the cities, there was just the journey, the most extraordinary migration in the history of our species. This is how it happened. To understand the journey, you need to understand the world that sent them. 30,000 years ago, the Earth was in the grip of the last glacial maximum, the peak of the most recent ice age. Global temperatures were significantly colder than today. Sea levels were lower by as much as 120 meters, enough to expose vast continental shelves that are today submerged under the world's oceans. One of those exposed land masses was a piece of territory connecting what is now Siberia to what is now Alaska, a land bridge so wide, at its peak, that it was not really a bridge at all. It was a subcontinent. Geologists and archaeologists call it Beringia, and at its widest point it stretched over 1,500 kilometers from north to south. Beringia was not a frozen wasteland. Paleo-environmental evidence, pollen records, animal bones, sediment cores, has revealed that significant portions of Beringia supported a productive grassland ecosystem called the Mammoth Steppe. Woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, bison, horses, and reindeer grazed across it in substantial numbers, and where large prey animals grazed, human hunters followed. The people who would eventually cross into the Americas were part of a broader population of anatomically modern humans who had been living in northeastern Asia for tens of thousands of years. They were not anatomically or cognitively different from any other humans alive at the time. They were skilled hunters, makers of sophisticated stone tools, users of fire, speakers of complex language, and members of social groups with rich cultural traditions. What distinguished them was geography and the slow, generational, almost imperceptible process by which following the animals eventually carried them across the top of the world and into an entirely empty hemisphere. The precise timing and route of the first Americans' arrival is one of the most actively debated questions in all of archaeology, and the answers have shifted dramatically in the last 30 years. The traditional model, established in the mid-20th century, held that the first Americans crossed Beringia approximately 13,000 years ago and moved south through an ice-free corridor that opened between the retreating Laurentide and Cordilleran ice sheets as the last ice age ended. This model was built around the Clovis culture, a distinctive stone tool technology first identified near Clovis, New Mexico, whose sites appeared to date to around 13,000 years ago and were found across North America in a remarkably short time. Then the evidence started to complicate the story. Archaeological sites began turning up that predated Clovis. The Monteverde site in southern Chile, located at the opposite end of the hemisphere from Alaska, has been reliably dated to at least 14,500 years ago, and possibly older. If people were in southern Chile 14,500 years ago, they had to have crossed into the Americas significantly earlier than the Clovis model allowed. Ancient DNA studies published in the last decade have confirmed that the peopling of the Americas was more complex than a single migration. Multiple waves of movement, multiple routes, multiple founding populations all contributed to the extraordinary diversity of Native American peoples that European explorers encountered thousands of years later. The current best evidence suggests that the first Americans arrived at least 16,000 years ago, possibly significantly earlier, and that many of them traveled not through the interior ice-free corridor, but along the Pacific coast, moving in small watercraft from one ice-free refuge to the next, following the kelp forests and the marine mammals that lived in them. This coastal route would have been faster, more resource-rich, and more navigable than the interior passage, and it would explain how people reached the southern tip of South America so quickly after the initial crossing. What happened after the crossing is almost beyond comprehension in its speed and scale. Within roughly 2,000 years of the initial arrival, a period so short that in demographic terms it represents perhaps 80 to 100 generations, human beings had reached every inhabitable environment in two continents, the Arctic tundra of northern Canada and the Great Plains, the temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, the Sonoran Desert, the Amazon Basin, the Andes, the Patagonian Steppe, Tierra del Fuego, the wind-blasted archipelago at the very tip of South America, separated from Antarctica by the Drake Passage. Every one of these environments required a completely different survival strategy. The people who settled the Arctic developed technologies, sleds, kayaks, insulated clothing made from animal skins, that allowed them to live in conditions that would kill an unprepared person within hours. The people who settled the Amazon developed a deep knowledge of the forest's pharmacological and nutritional resources that modern science is still documenting. The people who settled the Great Plains built an entire civilization around the seasonal movements of bison herds. The people who settled the Andes domesticated the potato, the quinoa, and the llama, agricultural achievements that would eventually feed the world. None of this was inevitable. All of it required innovation, adaptation, and the transmission of knowledge across generations with a fidelity and sophistication that no written record was yet available to support. It was all carried in memory, in practice, in story, in the lived relationship between a people and their specific piece of the world. By the time European ships appeared on the horizon in 1492, the Western Hemisphere was not an empty wilderness waiting to be discovered. It was home to between 50 and 100 million people. Estimates vary widely, and the true figure may never be known, organized into thousands of distinct cultures, languages, and political systems. The Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, built on an island in a lake in central Mexico, had a population of between 200,000 and 300,000 people, larger than any city in Europe at the time. Its market at Tlatelolco astonished the Spanish conquistadors who first saw it. They wrote that nothing in Spain, nothing in Rome, nothing they had ever seen compared to its scale, its organization, and the variety of its goods. The Inca Empire, stretching 4,000 kilometers along the spine of the Andes, was the largest empire in the pre-Columbian Americas and one of the largest in the world, administered through a road system of over 40,000 kilometers, built across some of the most difficult terrain on Earth, without wheeled vehicles or iron tools. The Mississippian city of Cahokia, near present-day St. Louis, had a population at its peak of perhaps 20,000 people and a central mound larger at its base than the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was abandoned before European contact and largely forgotten, its existence confirmed only by the patient work of archaeologists excavating the mounds that were its only visible remains. The first Americans did not conquer the New World in the sense that later empires would conquer territory, with armies, flags, and declarations of possession. They moved through it, adapted to it, learned from it, and over 15,000 years became so deeply woven into its ecology and geography that the land itself became inseparable from the people who lived on it. When Europeans arrived and described the Americas as empty, what they meant was that it was empty of people like them, people with horses, steel, and guns, people with the specific diseases that would kill 90% of the hemisphere's population within a century of contact. It was not empty. It had never been empty. It was full of the descendants of the most extraordinary journey in human history, people whose ancestors had walked from Siberia to Tierra del Fuego, who had figured out how to live in every environment on Earth, who had built cities and empires and political systems and agricultural revolutions. All of it from scratch, starting with nothing but their intelligence, their endurance, and the animals they followed across the top of a frozen world. The first Americans did not discover a new world, they built one. Reconstructing these visuals with historical accuracy takes countless hours of research and production. If you want to help us keep this history alive, the best way to support our work is to simply like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.